Well, when we're talking about lenses, you actually you have a YouTube channel, which we can get to, but on that channel, you do talk about some vintage lenses that you like to pair up with like modern day cameras. So can you talk about that a bit? That's really interesting.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's sort of like my new passion within the industry. Like these like modern lenses are so clinically sharp, everything's so perfect, and like it's good for commercial work. But if you want to get creative, like I brought out my my vintage lens collection here. But the beautiful thing with vintage lenses is that they have so many imperfections that you have so much character, and you get chromatic abrasion in the corner and like spots that are weird and halation and things like that. Like this lens in particular is a lot of fun. This is was it Helios 40 or Helios 44? I think it's a Helios 40. And this lens is it's beautiful, 85 millimeter. And it's characterized by this swirly bokeh. So if you shoot at the aperture wide open, and this one goes to f1.5, you get these weird swirly bokehs around your subject, which is really awesome. And I'm yet to master this lens. It's a really difficult one. I take shots and I'm like, oh, this looks terrible, but I just have to figure out how to use it and use the character to my advantage. So this is a really nice one.
Amazing. Where do you pick up these lenses?
Wherever you can, really. You got to hunt around. The thing is, like, before the mirrorless craze, the DSLRs, like the flange distance from the front of the camera to the sensor was deeper. So these lenses it was very hard to mount these to cameras. But now with the mirrorless cameras, the sensor's been moved forward towards the front of the camera. So you can pretty much adapt any lens to a mirrorless camera now. So all these vintage lenses are really sought after, and prices are going crazy.
Amazing.
Like this is my favorite one. I saved up quite a bit to get this one. This is the old Canon 85 f1.2.
Amazing.
And wow. I love shooting with this lens. A little bit of history.
I see on the edge, on the end of that lens, you have a filter. How do you feel about filters on the end of your lenses? Generally, like it's different for vintage versus like modern day lenses, or same?
The thing is, like the old lenses have like a lot of imperfect glass, so it's like you have a halation filter on them already. For modern lenses, I've heard people say, "Oh, why do you put filters on them?" I know I generally have like a clear filter on all my lenses just in case I bump it into something, because I never use lens caps. I find when I shoot weddings, if you're taking lens caps off on, it just slows you down. So I just put a nice glass filter on the front. You know, I'm using a filter here on this one. We have a nice Nisi VND on there to control the light, which is good. And there's also a Tiffin Pro Mist 1/8 filter on this lens as well. So you're getting some halation around these lights. I don't know if you can notice that little glow around thing. So I find it just adds character, makes things look a little more, I hate the term, cinematic.
Right.
Everyone's using that on YouTube now, but I don't want to be part of that cinematic crew. But yeah, it just adds a little extra character to everything.
It's like when people describe their whiskey as smooth. It's like, well, that's kind of a
yeah, exactly.
Cinematic. It's smooth. Awesome. You know, you said a bunch of images here, and a couple of these are actually shot with this vintage lenses. I'm going to bring this one up.
Yeah, so this image, I love this image, and if you notice in the corners and everything, you see kind of like this chromatic abrasion, and there's a color shift, and there's so much character in there. And that's one of the things I love about this lens. This is a Mir 24H 35 millimeter f2. It's an old Soviet lens, and it's become one of my favorite lenses to shoot with. It's just that the character in the shots is just beautiful. And that was just a lucky shot, man. It was just raining and it just cleared up, and I was just walking around. I just had that, like, I just want to get out of the house, and it's crossing the bridge, and there's the train, and there's a rainbow, double rainbow. And I shot it, and I just love I don't know if you can, like, if it translates through the I guess webcam or whatever, but in person, when you look at this photo, it's got so much rich character and depth, and it's such a pleasure to just look at least for me anyway.
It looks really nicely saturated. Yeah. Yeah, and this is sorry, go ahead.
I just think that the colors you get from vintage glass, there's something nostalgic about it. Especially, I mean, you and I were probably born in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So we grew up with all those like 80s movies, E.T. and stuff like that. And those were all shot with what would be considered vintage glass now. And these old lenses just have that look. And I connect to it in some way, right? It reminds me of childhood. I don't know if you get the same thing when you look at vintage lens photos or not.
I didn't think about it that way, but I can see that for sure. And even just looking at your old, even old family photos, right? Like I talk about my family doing family slideshows, kind of, I think on the monthly.
Yeah,
And you do it brings that nostalgia, right? Yeah. So that picture was taken. That's I'm just gonna bring it up again here. That's it looks like you're on like a Dufferin Bridge over the Gardiner Expressway. Is that right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you remember Toronto? Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
little
Oh.
walkway that goes over the train tracks and the expressway to the lake.
Nice. Yeah, you get some great shots. That's and that's facing downtown, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, facing towards downtown.
Cool. Awesome. Now this other excuse me, this other photo here was also shot on a vintage lens.
Yeah, same lens. And like if you see in the corners, you get that nice character and that chromatic abrasion. Now these aren't like artsy fartsy shots. These are just shots to show off the lens and like what it can do and the colors and like that nice blue sky and the rich yellows, the details in the bricks. It's nice and clear, but it's not too sharp. Mm-hmm. And they always tend to be like sharper in the middle, and then they get a little fuzzier around the outside, which is really cool too.